Mike Peters, the passionate and soulful frontman of the Welsh rock band The Alarm, a longtime fighter for cancer awareness and fundraising, has passed away at the age of 66. His death marks the end of an era, not only for fans of his rousing music but also for those whose lives he touched far beyond the stage. His legacy will be carried in chords of inspiration, anthems of resilience, and the quiet strength he embodied during 3 relentless decades of battling cancer. Born in Prestatyn, a coastal town in Denbighshire, North Wales, Mike Peters was more than just a musician. He was a symbol of tenacity, community, and purpose. A man rooted in the working-class ethos of Northern Wales, Mike carried that sensibility with him throughout his life, into his songs, into his activism, and into every relationship he built. He never forgot where he came from, and those who met him, whether in a stadium or a hospital ward, remember him as deeply human, approachable, and warm. Before the fame, Peters led a seemingly ordinary life. He worked in the computer department for Quick Save, a local supermarket chain. That time, few could have predicted the heights he would reach or the influence he would wield. But something sparked in him after attending a performance by the Sex Pistols in Chester in 1977. That incendiary punk performance lit a fire in the young man, compelling him to form his first band, The Toilets. It was the start of a journey that would eventually take him to the global stage. Like many bands born out of the punk movement, the Toilets were rough around the edges, more about energy and attitude than technical perfection. But over time, the band evolved. After several name changes and lineup adjustments, including the pivotal addition of guitarist Dave Sharp, they finally coalesced into The Alarm, a name that would become synonymous with both passionate and themic rock and a rare kind of working-class authenticity. In 1981, The Alarm played their first gig in Prestatyn. It was a modest beginning, but those who were present knew something electric had begun. Within 2 years, the band had exploded onto the national scene with their breakout hit, 68 Guns, a stirring anthem that perfectly captured the angst, rebellion, and hope of a generation. The song wasn't just a hit, it was a rallying cry. Propelled The Alarm into the UK Top 20 and set the tone for what the band would become known for, songs that weren't just heard but felt. Peters and The Alarm didn't chase stardom in the traditional sense. Their rise was fueled by relentless touring, a grassroots fan base, and a devotion to performing that bordered on spiritual. They weren't the flashiest band around, nor were they interested in conforming to whatever was fashionable. What they brought to every stage was sincerity and a shared emotional journey with their fans. Their music was built on big choruses, sharp edges, and raw human feeling. The band's debut album, Declaration, was released in 1984 and solidified their position in the music world. Alongside 68 Guns, it featured songs like Blaze of Glory, which resonated with a generation of fans on both sides of the Atlantic. Their live shows became the stuff of legend, combining anthemic power with a communal spirit. They were more than just concerts, they were celebrations of life, struggle, and survival. The Alarm's reputation continued to grow, especially after scoring a coveted spot supporting U2 on their U.S. tour in 1983. It was a significant milestone. Cracking America was a dream for most British bands, and The Alarm managed it through grit and passion. Their connection with American audiences was real and visceral. They were, in many ways, the first Welsh rock band since legends like Tom Jones and Bonnie Tyler to achieve such international recognition. Despite their rising fame, Peters and the band remained closely tethered to their Welsh roots. They never sought to erase where they came from, in fact, they leaned into it. In 1989, they released a Welsh-language version of their album Change, titled Newid. For Peters, this wasn't just a nod to cultural pride. It was an affirmation of identity, of home, and of a desire to make music that felt deeply personal and inclusive to their community. Throughout the 80s, The Alarm became the go-to support act for musical giants. They opened for Bob Dylan, Queen, and once again for U2, this time playing in front of massive crowds like the one at Cardiff's National Stadium in 1987. Each opportunity only confirmed what many already knew, that Peters and The Alarm belonged on those stages. Yet they never lost their humility, never outgrew the small clubs and the fans who'd been with them from the beginning. In 1991, in a move that shocked many fans, Peters announced on stage in London that he was leaving The Alarm. His departure wasn't about ego or fallout, it was a decision rooted in personal growth and creative evolution. He wasn't walking away from music. Rather, he was finding a new way to keep it alive. He continued to perform with a new band, the Poets of Justice, which notably included his wife, Jules, a musician and creative force in her own right. But life wasn't only about music for Mike Peters. In 1995, he received a diagnosis that would change the course of his life: lymphoma, a form of blood cancer. It was a moment that would have broken many. But Peters chose to fight. And more than that, he chose to fight publicly. His struggle wasn't hidden behind closed doors. Instead, he used his diagnosis as a platform to raise awareness, fund research, and become a beacon of hope for others facing similar battles. Peters lived with cancer for over 30 years. Not once but multiple times he fought back. After lymphoma, he was later diagnosed with chronic lymphocytic leukemia twice. Each time he stood tall even when the treatments took their toll. His music, already known for its depth, took on an even more poignant edge. Every lyric seemed to carry new weight. Every performance was infused with urgency and gratitude. It wasn't just the fans who found solace and strength in Peters' openness. His wife Jules, too, faced her own cancer battle. Their bond, forged in love and trial, inspired many. Together, they turned adversity into activism. In 2005, they founded the Love Hope Strength Foundation, a cancer charity aimed at promoting bone marrow donation and funding cancer treatment facilities in underdeveloped regions. Their work took them to some of the highest peaks on Earth, including a memorable benefit concert at Everest Base Camp, where Peters performed to raise funds and spirits in equal measure. Peters' courage and dedication did not go unnoticed. In 2019, he was awarded an MBE for services to cancer care. It was a formal recognition of a lifetime of informal heroism. Yet true to character, he remained humble. The award wasn't about accolades. It was about using every tool he had to make a difference. In 1999, during a period of artistic experimentation, Peters joined forces with Billy Duffy, the guitarist from The Cult, to form a band called Color Sound. It was a collaboration born out of mutual respect and creative chemistry. Duffy, speaking of his late friend, said that Peters had inspired millions. Music was his lifeblood. Everything was an inspiration for him to express his feelings through music, he reflected. Peters later returned to The Alarm, reforming the band in 2000. Though times had changed, the spirit remained. The music was just as vibrant, just as urgent. They continued to record, tour, and connect with fans, old and new. His work with Big Country, stepping in as lead singer from 2011 for a couple of years, showcased once again his versatility and the deep respect he commanded in the rock community. Over the decades, The Alarm sold more than 5 million records worldwide. They charted 16 singles in the UK Top 50. Yet Peters often said that it wasn't the sales or the statistics that mattered, it was the stories. People who came up to him after shows, who wrote letters, who said that a song helped them through a dark time. That was the real measure of success in his eyes. For Peters, life was never about being untouchable. It was about being real. He didn't pretend to be invincible. Instead, he allowed people to witness his pain, his triumphs, his setbacks, and his relentless hope. Even in his final years, when his body began to slow, his spirit did not. He remained engaged, still creating, still championing causes, still singing. He spent his later life in Dyserth, North Wales, with his beloved wife Jules and their 2 sons, Dylan and Evan. By all accounts, he was a devoted father, a grounded husband, and a neighbor whose fame never got in the way of his humanity. He was the kind of man who could headline a concert one night and chat with locals at the village shop the next.